Imagine a world where one man's words could command others to kill. No gun in his hand, no knife in his grip, just words. Words that manipulated, twisted, and bent fragile minds into carrying out the most brutal crimes in Hollywood history. This is the story of Charles Manson, his devoted followers, and the chilling murders that shocked the world in 1969. A story that forever changed the way America viewed cults, celebrity, and evil itself. To understand how such horrors could happen, we need to go back. Before the headlines, before Sharon Tate's name was forever tied to tragedy, before the words, Manson Family, sent shivers down the spine of an entire nation, there was just Charles. A man who never truly belonged, a man who grew up in and out of institutions, a man whose hunger for power and recognition would ultimately lead to one of the darkest chapters in American crime history. Charles Manson was born in 1934 in Cincinnati, Ohio, to a teenage mother who often neglected him. His childhood was filled with instability, constantly bouncing between relatives, foster homes, and reform schools. By the time most kids were learning to read and write, Manson was already learning how to manipulate, how to lie, and how to survive in a world that had rejected him. Prison became more of a home to him than any real house ever did. By his early 30s, Manson had spent more than half his life behind bars. And yet in prison, he learned something that would become his greatest weapon: how to control people. When Manson was released in 1967, he landed in San Francisco just as the counterculture movement was exploding. Think flower power, free love, psychedelic drugs, and a generation rejecting the old ways of America. It was the summer of love. Thousands of young people had gathered, searching for meaning, for community, for someone to tell them who they were supposed to be. And into that scene walked Charles Manson, a small, scruffy man with wild eyes and a voice that could switch from soft and comforting to terrifyingly intense in a second. He played the guitar, spoke about love and freedom, and promised lost souls a new family. And they followed. Mostly women, many of them teenagers or in their early 20s, drawn to him because he offered something they felt they couldn't find anywhere else: acceptance. But acceptance came at a price. Slowly, Manson broke them down. He isolated them from their families, stripped them of their identities, and replaced their thoughts with his own. He used drugs, sex, and relentless preaching to build what he called his family. By 1968, the Manson family had settled at Spahn Ranch, an old, run-down movie set in the Los Angeles Hills. It was the perfect hideout. Here, Manson played the role of prophet. He convinced his followers that he was a kind of messiah, that he could see the future, that they were chosen to survive an inevitable race war he called Helter Skelter, a phrase he stole from a Beatles song. In Manson's twisted vision, this war would leave the world in ruins, and he and his family would rise up to take control. To us, it sounds insane, but to the young, drug-fueled minds under his control, it was truth. And the more Manson preached it, the more they believed it. But preaching wasn't enough. Manson needed to spark the chaos himself, and that's when things turned deadly. On the night of August 8, 1969, Manson gave orders that would make history. He sent 4 of his followers, Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Linda Kasabian, to a house on Cielo Drive in Beverly Hills, a house Manson himself had visited before. Living there was actress Sharon Tate, 8 months pregnant, married to director Roman Polanski. Sharon was known for her beauty and rising Hollywood career, but that night she became a target in Manson's sick plan. What happened inside that house was pure horror. Tex Watson led the attack. Sharon Tate and her friends, Jay Sebring, Abigail Folger, and Wojciech Frykowski, were brutally murdered. Even a young man named Stephen Parent, who had the misfortune of being in the wrong place at the wrong time, was gunned down outside. The killers left the scene drenched in blood, writing cryptic messages on the walls in the victims' blood, including the word pig. The murders were senseless, savage, and designed to send a message of fear. But Manson wasn't done. The very next night, he ordered another group of his followers to strike again. This time, they targeted the Los Angeles home of Lano and Rosemary LaBianca, a wealthy couple. They tied them up, tortured them, and killed them in their own home. Again, they left behind bloody messages, this time including the phrase, Helter Skelter. For days, Los Angeles was in a state of terror. 2 nights. 7 brutal murders, no suspects, no clear motive. The press ran wild with speculation. The city of Hollywood, usually associated with glamour and dreams, was now linked to nightmarish bloodshed. At first, police had no idea who was responsible. The Tate murders and the LaBianca murders weren't even connected in their minds. But slowly, through a combination of chance, confessions, and sloppy mistakes from the family members themselves, investigators began to piece it together. It all unraveled when Susan Atkins, one of Manson's most devoted followers, started bragging about the killings while in jail on unrelated charges. Word got out, and soon, detectives realized they were dealing with a cult unlike anything they had ever seen. By late 1969, Manson and several of his followers were arrested. The trial that followed was nothing short of a circus. The media couldn't get enough of it. Manson carved an X into his forehead and told his followers to do the same. He turned the courtroom into his stage, rambling about the apocalypse, the Beatles, and how society had failed him. His followers, sitting outside the courthouse, shaved their heads, sang songs, and declared their loyalty. It was chilling, almost surreal, like watching a performance of madness. But beneath all the theatrics was the undeniable fact. Manson had ordered these murders, and his family had carried them out without hesitation. In 1971, Charles Manson and several of his followers were convicted and sentenced to death. Later, when California abolished the death penalty, their sentences were commuted to life in prison. Charles Manson never killed anyone with his own hands, yet his control was so powerful that others killed for him. He spent the rest of his life behind bars, still attracting attention, still giving interviews where he alternated between incoherent rambling and chilling clarity. He died in 2017 at the age of 83. The Manson family murders left scars far deeper than the crime scenes themselves. They shattered the illusion of the carefree 1960s. They ended the so-called summer of love and replaced it with a fear that no one, not even Hollywood's brightest stars, was safe. Manson became the ultimate symbol of cult manipulation, of wasted lives, of evil hiding behind the mask of charisma. And even today, more than 50 years later, people are still fascinated, horrified, and haunted by the story. Books, documentaries, films, they keep revisiting that summer of 1969, trying to answer the same question. How could this happen? How could one man convince others to kill for him? The answer lies in the dark corners of human psychology. It's about vulnerability, about the hunger to belong, about how easily some people can be manipulated when they're searching for meaning. Manson knew exactly how to exploit those needs, and that's why his story still resonates. It's a warning. Because the truth is, Charles Manson wasn't just a man. He was a mirror, reflecting back the dangers of blind devotion, the fragility of human choice, and the terrifying reality that sometimes evil doesn't need to lift a weapon. It only needs to plant an idea. And that's the story of the Manson family murders of 1969. If you found this deep dive into true crime chilling and thought-provoking, make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share this video with others who are fascinated by the darkest corners of history. There are many more stories to uncover, and you won't want to miss them.